Today on The Real Story, Connecticut dodging a bullet with Tropical Storm Henri, but it was all hands on deck leading up to that storm, and it was a big test for Eversource since Tropical Storm Isaias pummeled the state last summer. We're going to break down how it went and what storm response looked like moving forward with the power company's CEO and president, Joe Nolan. Plus, we turn our sights on Afghanistan. U.S. service members killed and wounded in Kabul. Dozens of Afghans also killed. This while the August 31st deadline ticks down. We're going to talk with international relations expert Yvonne Davis, who knows the country well. It's all today on The Real Story. Good morning, and thanks for joining us on The Real Story. I'm Jen Bernstein. Luckily, we were spared the worst of what Tropical Storm Henri could have been. Thank goodness. But leading up to the storm, the forecast was showing Henri slamming directly into Connecticut as a Category 1 hurricane, which could have caused massive damage to our electrical grid. In fact, Eversource and our forecasters were warning of the potential of hundreds of thousands of outages. Luckily, there were just over 30,000 at the height of the storm. Not a consolation, of course, for anyone who had their power out, but it was not the dire situation that was predicted because of how the storm ended up turning. Eversource was under the microscope during the storm response after its response to Tropical Storm Isaias. This was a real test, the company stacking crews and bringing in contractors to face the storm. So let's talk about how it went with President and CEO Joe Nolan of Eversource. Good morning and welcome back on The Real Story.
Good morning, Jen. Thanks for having me.
All right, so tell me how you think it went.
Well, I thought it went great. We really hit the ground running. We called out, made a national plea for resources to my colleagues around the country, and I'm pleased to say that everybody stepped up. The track of this storm was very different than Isaias. Isaias, as you know, came up through Florida and the Carolinas, and that really dried up resources that might be available to us. This particular storm came over Long Island. It didn't really cause any damage to the south, and it gave us those resources. In addition to that, we went out to out to the west and Mississippi, Ohio, and then we went up to Canada and were able to draw on resources. So we had 4,000 resources available at our disposal for the Eversource company.
You had said that you all had made changes since the storm response last summer, in addition to what you were just talking about, where you had more crew resources because of the storm's path. What was different this time?
Well, we always had a community relations person in a community, but we've also augmented that with a public safety specialist that is in the town and is working with the DPW to find out what's really important. But I think the greatest enhancement that we provided for our communities was a community portal that allowed our communities to input their priorities. And by doing that, they got line of sight in terms of their priorities and what resources were associated with that. And then any community impacted had a truck in it. And I think that was very impactful, Jen.
Interesting. We know that Governor Lamont, as well as Connecticut's 2 senators, were very vocal leading up to the storm that they were going to hold Eversource's feet to the fire if Eversource did not have a good storm response. I'm curious on how those conversations went with you.
Yeah, well, great. I mean, the governor is a friend, and, I told the governor, I made a commitment that I would not let the people of Connecticut down again on a storm, and he had my commitment, and I put all the resources at it. I was thrilled that Senator Murphy took the time. He came over to our Berlin headquarters, and we had an opportunity to brief him on our response. And, I thought he was really, obviously he saw the type of resources we were putting at our emergency control center, and I was grateful for that. So those conversations went very well, but there was many other conversations. I talked to many mayors and first select persons, and obviously key legislators, Senator Needleman and Chairman Arconti, who were instrumental on the bill, that was post Isaias. And I think that if you talk with any one of those, I think people are in a good place with the response.
No, you did get some good feedback from local community leaders on your communication with them, for sure. In fact, some of those local officials also said, though, that it was because of that bill and the fact that there could be penalties for customers or for Eversource if customers' power wasn't on by a certain time frame. Did that motivate you all, or did you just feel like since the last storm, you all will have everything in place? They said that that's what motivated you all.
Yeah, folks like to say that they extracted a pound of flesh out of us, and if that's what they want to feel, that's fine. I mean, Eversource always looks at every storm, and they do a postmortem. They see how they could have done better. I don't want to relive Isaias. All I will tell you, and that we talked about it when we met before, is that was a storm that happened in the middle of a pandemic. We were unable to get to these emergency control centers because these cities and towns didn't open them up. So for us not to be able to be out there made it very difficult. We had to have one individual in each vehicle. Each truck had one individual. Each hotel room, one individual. I mean, that was a very, very complex recovery. And again, I apologize for the customers that we let down, but I will tell you that given the circumstances, the cards that we were dealt, I think that the Eversource team and all of our employees and our contractors and folks that we brought in from all over the country did an amazing job. And I feel very strongly about that.
Let's talk about preparing for the next storm, because thank goodness Tropical Storm Henri did not hit Connecticut, as the path had shown early on that it could possibly do. We know forecasting is really tricky, and it wasn't just our local meteorologists saying that. Eversource had forecasters saying that. The state had forecasters saying that. The National Weather Service had concerns about the potential for a Category 1 hurricane slamming into the Connecticut coast. But how do you prepare? I know that you all launched this program to partner with local communities, the ones that were hit during Tropical Storm Henri, to find some of the problem spots. How is that going so far?
Yeah, no, it's going great. So what we do is we have 5 or 6 different weather services, and I will tell you that was one of the scariest kind of looks that I had when I looked at all 5 weather patterns. Every one of them had a hitting dead on down in the New London region. I was down with that mayor probably 24 hours before that storm was going to land. As you know, they were evacuating anything along the coast there. And it certainly was a scary time. I've been in this business for 36 years. And I will tell you that I was here when Hurricane Gloria hit. I was, a young, fresh out of college, and we had to battle that. And that was a protracted event that went on for 12 to 14 days. So when I saw this weather pattern that was identical to Gloria, I said to myself that we are in for a very, very challenging time.
Hurricane Gloria, 1985, slamming into Connecticut, the last hurricane to hit Connecticut. All right, so let's talk about the 2-storm panel. I don't know if you remember this, but it was back in 2012. It was put on because Governor Malloy wanted us to analyze our response to Tropical Storm Irene. When it hit Connecticut, it was a tropical storm, as well as that freak Halloween storm that we had that caused hundreds of thousands of outages. And I remember I covered some of the 2-storm panel. I remember listening, and there were concerns over whether a Category 3 hurricane slammed into Connecticut, what that would look like. From where you're sitting right now, what does that look like? Because I know that the warning from that 2-storm panel was that a Category 3 could put the entire state of Connecticut in the dark and could leave certain areas in the state without power for a month.
Well, I continue to be stunned by the violence of these storms that have been coming in and the damage. I mean, these trees that are coming down and crushing our infrastructure. Again, these are not our trees. These are trees that are owned by either private citizens or cities and towns. They're coming down and they're wiping out entire, sections of towns. And, it does concern me. It's obviously climate change is very real. We take it very seriously. And that's why I think you see the commitment that we have. Our carbon goals are the strongest in the country for an electric utility.
Is there a plan in place if a storm of that magnitude were to hit Connecticut, or is it the same plan, just dragging in as many crews as possible as what you tried to implement, with Tropical Storm Henri? Is there a different protocol if a storm of that size were to hit?
Yeah, well, I think that the good news is, Edison Electric Institute, which is our trade organization, we've really changed it up in terms of mutual aid. The customary folks are people that are adjacent to you. That's who you call upon. That's no longer the case anymore. We have 150 surplus trucks. We fly line crews in from as far away as Washington State. They come in, they can hit the ground running. We've got a lot more opportunities for us to kind of lean on folks. to make sure that we can get things back. I will tell you that, people worry about supply chain. Supply chain is very critical as you look at this pandemic. There's no issue with us. We had 3,000 poles out there during Henri. We had 4,000 transformers. So we've been able to really do that. And that's really the benefit. When you look at the Eversource family, we go from the Canadian border down to the New York border, and that allows us to bring resources. We had crews that were able to come in from New Hampshire to help us. We had crews that came in from Massachusetts. That we were able to supplement all of the outside crews and all the Connecticut crews. And I think that's what really is the benefit to the citizens and our customers here in Connecticut.
Right, you have the resources that you can pull from. Do you think we're better prepared than we were in 2012, for example, when that report came out? And, here's another question. Why do we keep rebuilding our utilities above ground? I know it would be a massive cost to go underground. Is that the only reason?
Yeah, also this storm surge, if that water had come in, that would have wiped out an underground network. I mean, we're having a lot of areas right on the waterfront now where they're talking about putting substations, other infrastructure in our business up on the second or third floor because they're worried about storm surges. So if you've got flooding and you have an underground network, it is game over. So, again, there are opportunities we see on some key circuits that are coming out of facilities that maybe we could help minimize. But undergrounding is very, very challenging. It requires, rights and permits in streets. It requires a customer that maybe doesn't have a service that's currently up to code. They'd have to upgrade their service. Very expensive. That can be $4,000 to $5,000. It requires all your cable, all your phone, all the fire department. All of those wires you need to find space for underground. Yes, I mean, in some circumstances, it is a very, very good idea. But I will tell you that undergrounding itself has challenges.
Interesting. All right, Joe, keep us updated on what's going on with rate increases right now. What's being proposed?
Sure. So, right now the energy markets have been relatively stable. We go out on behalf of our customers, but more than half of our customers are buying from competitive supplier. And that is the piece, Jen, that you begin to see the fluctuation. Customers, we go out, procure basic service for our customers. And that's what changes. You'll see it for industrial customers, it changes every quarter. And then for our residential customers, you see it change in January and in July. So, we're seeing, minor upticks, but nothing that's been significant. We haven't seen the type of increases that we've experienced in the past. So I think we have relative stability in the energy markets.
I want to talk about wind power really quickly because you were saying before that you were able to go down to New London. We know that's going to be a wind hub. You all are part of the project. What's that going to look like? And how does it impact people here in Connecticut? Is that going to reduce the cost of electricity for a lot of us here in the state at some point if we are able to use wind technology?
Yeah, well, I mean, the price of wind has come down significantly from when we entered this business. But what I think is so exciting for the people of Connecticut is that New London port really is the envy of every single wind developer in the country. If you get a port of that magnitude, you have to go all the way to Norfolk, Virginia. Mayor Pissarro is a real leader down in New London. He's my friend, and I went down there for the storm Henri. But while I was there, I was able to go over and see. And if anyone that goes by there, you'll see significant construction going on right now. And that's going to allow us to bring a vessel in there that's over 500 feet long. It's 150 feet wide. And that vessel can carry 6 wind turbine assemblies, which are as high as the Rockefeller Tower down in New York City. It's 770 feet. And that allows us to take the 6 turbines out to our lease area, which is 70 miles out of New London Harbor. And so, I guess what I'll tell you is that clean energy, we are really the leaders in it. This region is, and that's really because of the administration. The Lamont administration is really dedicated to clean energy and reducing the carbon footprint. And by doing that, I think that's going to obviously have an impact on climate change. It's going to slow it. And folks, there's many states around the country that are way behind us. They have dirty kilowatt hours and they don't have reliability. You look at Texas. Texas has very dirty power. It's very cheap, but they have poor reliability and dirty power. So I will tell the people of Connecticut that, yes, you pay a little bit more here, but you got a clean kilowatt hour and you're doing the right thing. And it really is the future.
Joe, I know I asked you this the last time, but how do you get Connecticut to trust you, right? Because there was a lot of hubbub last summer with the rate increase that was proposed, and people had been for days without power. I know we just talked quickly about rate increases, and you said that they were pretty stable. But how can you gain people's trust here to know that you're trying to keep their rates as low as possible?
Well, I will tell you that I am passionate about customer service, and I have crisscrossed this state. I've talked with many folks, and they have my word that between myself and my 9,200, 9,300 colleagues, we are delivering top quality service at the lowest price that we could possibly get for our customers with great reliability. And they have my promise. And, I'm not afraid to go out and see folks. I have been all over Connecticut. I spent a lot of time in Connecticut. I slept down there. I woke up. I had breakfast with crews out of Mississippi and Ohio. So you'll see me very visible, very approachable, and eager to talk about this business, any aspect that people want to talk about.
We did see you out there during the day. Joe Nolan, Eversource President and CEO, thanks for coming back on The Real Story and talking with us for this extensive conversation. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Jen, for your time.
Appreciate it. All right, still to come, last week's violence in Afghanistan, claiming American lives and dozens of Afghan lives as well. This while the U.S. is racing to pull Americans and Afghans out of the country. Coming up, we're going to talk with international relations expert Yvonne Davis, who trained Afghan men and women in Kabul. She's our guest right after the break.